I stood at the back of the wedding venue, watching my stepdaughter Briani in her white dress, and felt nothing but sadness. For 8 years, I'd tried to be a mother to this girl after her father died. I'd paid for her college education, supported her through breakdowns, welcomed her into my home whenever she needed it. And now, at her wedding rehearsal dinner, she was about to make a speech thanking everyone except me. I'm Nell Pritchard, 63 years old, and I'd finally accepted that some people will never appreciate your sacrifices. But I'd prepared for this moment. In my purse was an envelope that would change everything. I just needed to wait for the right time. That time came faster than I expected, during a toast that would reveal Briani's true feelings about me. I met Garrison Pritchard when I was 45 years old. He was a widower with a 10-year-old daughter named Briani. His first wife, Corrine, had left him when Briani was just 3, choosing drugs and freedom over motherhood. She signed away custody and disappeared. Garrison raised Briani alone for 7 years before we met. He was kind, tired, doing his best. Briani was sweet back then, calling me Miss Nell, asking if I could braid her hair. When Garrison and I married 2 years later, she seemed genuinely happy. She was 12, still young enough to accept me. My own son Whitman was already 27 and living independently. I thought we could be a real family. For a while we were. Garrison died suddenly of a heart attack when Briani was 18. One moment he was laughing at dinner. The next he collapsed, gone before the ambulance arrived. Briani fell apart completely. She'd lost her mother to abandonment, and now her father to death. I held her through the funeral, through the nights she couldn't sleep, through the panic attacks that left her gasping. I promised her she wasn't alone, that I would take care of her. Garrison's life insurance paid off the house, but most of his savings went to final expenses. I used my own retirement fund to pay for Briani's college. 4 years at a private university, plus living expenses, totaled nearly $200,000. I never told her the exact amount. I just wanted her to have the future her father would have wanted for her. Things changed when Briani turned 21. Her biological mother, Corrine, suddenly reappeared after 18 years of silence. She'd gotten clean, found religion, wanted to reconnect with her daughter. I understood Briani's desire to know her real mother. I even encouraged their relationship at first, but Corrine started poisoning Briani against me. She told her I'd stolen Garrison away from her. She said I'd turned Briani against her own mother. None of it was true, but Briani was young and confused. She started pulling away from me. Phone calls became shorter, visits became less frequent. When I asked what was wrong, she said she needed space to figure out her relationship with her real mom. Those words hurt more than she knew. Real mom, as if 8 years of love meant nothing. 2 years ago, Briani met Dashiell at a friend's party. He came from money, worked in finance, drove expensive cars. Briani fell hard and fast. Within 6 months, they were engaged. She called to tell me the news, her voice bright with excitement. I was happy for her, truly. But when she started talking about wedding plans, I noticed something. She kept saying my mom this and my mom that. Every reference was to Corrine. I finally asked, what about me? Sweetheart, do I get to help plan anything? There was a long silence. Then Briani said, Nell, you've been wonderful, but Corrine is my actual mother. She should be the one involved in these decisions. I swallowed my hurt and said I understood, but inside something broke. The wedding planning continued without me. I learned details through social media posts. Briani had picked her dress. Corrine had thrown her a bridal shower. The venue was booked. I wasn't invited to any of it. When I gently mentioned feeling left out, Briani sighed and said I was being dramatic. You're not being excluded, Nell. You're invited to the wedding. That's what matters, but it did matter. Every decision, every special moment. I was deliberately kept away. Meanwhile, Corrine posted constant pictures with Briani, calling herself mother of the bride, talking about her baby girl getting married. This woman who'd abandoned her daughter at 3 years old was now taking credit for everything. And Briani let her. I watched it all happen, feeling invisible. 3 months before the wedding, I received the invoice. Briani and Dashiell had chosen an expensive venue. But there was a problem with payment. The email explained that the bride's family was responsible for certain costs, and those costs hadn't been covered. The total was $48,000. I stared at that number for a long time. Then I called Briani. Sweetheart, I received an invoice from your venue. What's going on? Brianni sounded embarrassed. Oh, yeah, Mom was supposed to handle it. But she's having some financial difficulties right now. I was hoping you could help. Help after being excluded from everything. I was now expected to pay. I asked if she discussed this with Karine first. Brianni got defensive. Nell, I know you have the money. Dad left you everything. Can you just do this for me? That conversation revealed everything I needed to know. Brianni believed I had unlimited funds because Garrison had left me everything. The truth was more complicated. Garrison's estate had been modest. The house, some savings, his life insurance. Most of that money had gone to Brianni's education. What remained supported my retirement. I wasn't wealthy, but Brianni had created a narrative where I was hoarding her father's money while she struggled. I asked her directly, "Do you know how much your college education cost?" She was quiet. "I don't know. Dad had college savings, right?" I told her the truth. Her father's college fund had contained $30,000. The remaining $170,000 had come from my retirement account. From the money I'd saved working as a nurse for 40 years. There was silence on the line. Then Brianni said, "Why are you bringing that up now?" "Because you need to understand something." I said carefully, "I paid for your education because I love you and because your father would have wanted that. But I'm not an endless bank account. $48,000 is a lot of money." Brianni's voice turned cold. "So you're saying you won't help me?" On my wedding, I felt tired suddenly. So incredibly tired. "I'm saying you've excluded me from every part of planning this wedding. You've made it clear that Karine is your real mother, and I'm just someone who married your dad. But now you want me to pay for it?" Brianni exploded. She called me selfish, jealous, manipulative. She said I was trying to use money to control her. She said her father would be ashamed of me. Then she hung up. I sat there holding the phone and I made a decision. I called Mr. Pembroke, the lawyer who'd handled Garrison's estate. I asked him to prepare documents showing exactly how much money I'd spent on Brianni over the past 8 years. College tuition, housing, food, medical expenses, car insurance, phone bills, emergency funds. Everything itemized with dates and receipts. Mr. Pembroke asked why I needed this. I told him I needed Brianni to understand the truth. He prepared the documents, and the total came to $247,000. Nearly $250,000 I'd spent raising a child who wasn't biologically mine. I'd never expected repayment or even gratitude. But I did expect basic respect, and I wasn't getting it. I had those documents placed in an envelope and kept them in my purse, just in case I needed them. 2 weeks before the wedding, Brianni called again. Her voice was different, softer. "Nell, I'm sorry about what I said. I was stressed. This wedding planning has been really hard." I accepted her apology, though I didn't quite believe it. Then she said, "I talked to Dashiell. His parents agreed to cover most of the venue costs, but we're still short about $12,000. Could you help with that, please?" 12,000 instead of 48. I was supposed to be grateful for the reduced request. I asked what happened to Karine helping. Brianni admitted her mother didn't have any money to contribute. I felt a bitter satisfaction at that. The real mom couldn't actually help her daughter when it mattered. I told Brianni I'd think about it. She seemed satisfied with that answer. I did help with the money, not because Brianni deserved it, but because I'd loved Garrison, and he would have wanted his daughter to have a beautiful wedding. I wrote the check and sent it without comment. Brianni texted a quick thank you, then went back to posting pictures with Karine. Planning dress fittings and cake tastings I wasn't invited to. The wedding invitation arrived in the mail. My name was listed in small print at the bottom, along with other extended family. Karine's name was prominently displayed as mother of the bride. I hung that invitation on my refrigerator and looked at it every day, reminding myself why I'd prepared that envelope. The wedding was going to be Brianni's perfect day, but truth has a way of showing up uninvited. The rehearsal dinner was held at an upscale restaurant 2 nights before the wedding. I arrived alone, wearing a simple blue dress. Whitman couldn't make it from Seattle until the actual wedding day. I sat at a table with distant relatives I barely knew. Brianni and Dashiell sat at the head table with their wedding party and parents. Karine was there, wearing an expensive dress someone else had probably paid for, laughing loudly, acting like she'd been Mother of the Year. I watched her touch Brianni's arm possessively, saw Brianni lean into her, and felt nothing. I'd moved past hurt into a strange calm. After dinner, the toasts began. Dashiell's father spoke about love and commitment. The best man told embarrassing stories. Then Briani stood up to say a few words. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Briani began, her voice emotional. Planning this wedding has been the most amazing experience, and I couldn't have done it without some very special people. She thanked Dashiell's parents for their generosity. She thanked her bridesmaids for their support. Then she turned to Karine. Mom, I know we lost a lot of years, but having you back in my life has been the greatest gift. Thank you for helping me plan every detail of this wedding. Thank you for being there when I needed you. Karine was crying, reaching for Briani's hand. People applauded. Briani wiped her eyes and continued. I also want to acknowledge my dad, Garrison Pritchard. He raised me with so much love. I miss him every day, and I know he's watching over us tonight. That's when I thought she might mention me. That's when I expected at least a sentence of acknowledgement. But Briani simply said, thank you all again for being here. We love you. She sat down to applause. I sat frozen in my chair, 8 years. $250,000, countless nights of comfort and care. And I didn't even get a mention. The woman sitting next to me leaned over and whispered, are you family? I nodded. Stepmom. I raised her after her father died. The woman looked shocked. She didn't mention you. I smiled tightly. I noticed. That's when I reached into my purse and felt the envelope. My hand closed around it, but I hesitated. Was I really going to do this? Then I saw Karine hug Briani. Saw them take a selfie together, and I made my decision. I stood up, the room gradually noticed and fell quiet. Briani looked surprised to see me standing. Nell, did you want to say something? I walked to the front of the room, the envelope in my hand. My voice was steady when I spoke. I do have a few words if that's all right. Briani looked uncomfortable but nodded. I smiled at the guests. I'm Nell Pritchard, Briani's stepmother. I married her father when she was 12 years old. Garrison was a wonderful man, and I loved him deeply. When he died 8 years ago, I promised him I'd take care of his daughter. I looked at Briani. I kept that promise. I paid for your college education when there wasn't enough money in your father's account. I supported you through every crisis. I gave you a home whenever you needed it. Briani's face was turning red. Nell, this isn't the time. I held up my hand. Let me finish, sweetheart. Tonight you thank many people, including your mother Karine, who abandoned you when you were 3 years old. You thanked her for helping plan this wedding, but you didn't mention the person who actually paid for your education, your housing, your expenses for 8 years. The person who wrote a check for $12,000 2 weeks ago to help cover wedding costs. The room was completely silent now. Briani stood up, her voice shaking. How dare you bring up money at my rehearsal dinner? This is about family, not finances. I opened the envelope. You're right. It is about family. So I want everyone to know exactly what kind of family we've been. I pulled out the documents Mr. Pembroke had prepared. These papers show every dollar I spent raising you after your father died. College tuition, rent, food, insurance, emergency funds. The total is $247,000. I set the papers on the table. I never asked you to repay any of it. I never even asked for gratitude. But I did expect basic respect. Briani's hands were shaking. You're not my real mom. You married my dad, but that doesn't make you my mother. The words hung in the air like a slap. I nodded slowly. You're absolutely right. I'm not your real mother. Your real mother is sitting right there. I pointed to Karine, whose face had gone pale. The woman who chose drugs over you, who signed away custody and disappeared for 18 years. She's your real mom. Tears were streaming down Briani's face. Get out of my rehearsal dinner. I picked up my purse. I'm leaving. But I want you to understand something. Briani, love isn't about biology. It's about showing up. I showed up for you every single day for 8 years. I held you when you cried. I celebrated your victories. I paid for your future. Your real mother showed up 6 months ago with empty hands and a sob story. I looked at Karine. I hope her love is enough to sustain you. Because mine is finished. I walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard crying, shocked whispers. Dashiell trying to calm Briani down. At the door, I turned back one last time. I won't be attending the wedding. Consider my $12,000 contribution your wedding gift. I hope you have a beautiful life, Briani. I truly do. I didn't attend the wedding. Whitman called me afterward, furious on my behalf. He'd gone to the ceremony and watched Briani walk down the aisle with Karine by her side. He said it was awkward and uncomfortable. that many guests had asked where I was. Briani had apparently told people I'd become ill. The lie didn't surprise me. 3 months later, I received a letter from Briani. She apologized for how she'd treated me. She said she'd been confused and manipulated by Corrine. She said she understood now what I'd sacrificed. The letter was sincere, but it changed nothing. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. I wrote back briefly, wishing her well but explaining that I needed distance. Today, at 64, I have peace. I know I did everything I could for a child who wasn't mine by blood, but was mine by choice. And sometimes, doing everything isn't enough. But that's her loss, not mine. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Remember that real family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, and who loves you when it's difficult. Sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. Thank you for listening to my story. Document your sacrifices when raising stepchildren. Love is shown through actions, not words. Never let others rewrite your contributions. You deserve recognition for the family you choose to build. Before you go, I need to know something. What hit you the hardest? The betrayal. The moment everything fell apart. The twist you never saw coming. Drop it in the comments right now. And tell me what you want to see next. Medical fraud, family secrets, financial crimes, hidden identities. Your ideas become our next stories. If this story kept you glued to the screen, hit that like button. If you want more shocking true stories that expose the truth, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks for letting me share this story with you. The next one drops soon, and it's going to shake you even harder. See you there.